You type 3 words, running 5 late, and then you pause. Your thumb hovers over the send button, but instead you hit delete. You rewrite it to sound softer. You add a reason, then cut the reason because it sounds like an excuse, and an excuse sounds like the first line of a fight. Finally, you lead with a sorry and add an exclamation point to prove you aren't angry. We usually misfile this exhausting habit as a character trait. You think you're just being considerate, and society agrees, labeling the behavior as good manners or conscientiousness. This is hypervigilance wearing the mask of courtesy. It is a private grammar learned under pressure, where a question mark is stapled onto a statement so it cannot be read as a demand, and a just is added to make your presence smaller on the page. It represents a massive expenditure of nervous system energy on a mundane task. You are negotiating a text message as though it were a hostage call, spending your afternoon managing the aftermath of sentences that were harmless. If this isn't a personality quirk, it raises a question about what your body is actually doing. What exactly is the nervous system defending against in the 90 seconds it takes to send a text? Most people recognize fight, flight, and freeze, but psychotherapist Pete Walker added a 4th survival response, fawn. Fawning manages a threat by becoming more appealing to it. You shave off your personality's edges to become the version least likely to set anyone off. The tactic is effective because it looks like ordinary agreeableness. It hides in the decision to stay quiet about which restaurant you prefer, or the way you apologize for things you didn't cause, like the traffic or the fact that it's raining. This reflex doesn't install itself randomly. In 2025, researchers at the University of Cambridge identified a specific pattern of control that targets capable, independent adults, a pattern they called the two-faced soulmate. It begins with intense charm. The partner mirrors you so precisely that you feel understood for the first time, using shared wounds to make the trust feel mutual. Once the bond is set, the warmth starts to alternate with withdrawal. One day, a text receives an affectionate paragraph. The next, it's met with a single period, or a cool essay about your perceived carelessness. This unpredictability functions as a variable reward. It is the same neurological hook that keeps a person feeding a slot machine. The payout that comes once in 20 is the one the brain refuses to stop chasing. You adapt by writing every message twice, once the way you mean it, and once the way it must sound to survive contact. Eventually, the honest version simply stops appearing. You only ever write the safe one. Competence and intelligence don't protect you from this conditioning. The tactic is designed to walk around your judgment and force you to take over the job of policing yourself. The training makes sense while the trainer is in the room, but the reflex often stays long after the door has closed. You find yourself writing careful, hedged letters to an audience that stopped reading you years ago. Under sustained threat, the amygdala turns hypervigilant. It generalizes danger, treating any hint of social friction as a live emergency. It can't tell the difference between the one person who made your words expensive and the hundreds of people who never would. To see how this damage travels through the mind, we can look at a 2025 study of women who lived through these abusive dynamics. The research found that harm moved through a middle station, a chronic, humming, low-grade anxiety. This anxiety is what carries the damage forward and keeps it alive. This lingering anxiety needs a job to stay occupied. Every redrafted message is a safety check being run on a threat that already left the building. The reflex disguises itself as your finest quality. You get called mature for the wound. Everyone around you confirms that the cage is a virtue, which makes it nearly impossible to spot from the inside. When you sit down to rewrite that text, you aren't really writing to the person who will actually read it. You aren't answering to your friend or your manager or the delivery driver. You are writing to an internalized editor stitched together from every time honesty cost you something. That editor is pulling unpaid overtime on a case that was closed a long time ago. The next time you catch yourself on the 4th draft, ask the one question that breaks the spell. Who taught me to be this afraid of a sentence? And are they even in this room? Most of the time, the answer is no. And a message written for a reader who is gone is a message you are finally allowed to just send.